with us tonight. My name is Janice Robinson, and I will be co-moderating with Sydney Hutchinson. And we're here because we want to have our voices heard.
Woo.
You know, we are constituents, we are voters, and we want to have our representative hear our voices. He is not with us again tonight, at least he hasn't come in yet. I hope that he would. But we will be videotaping comments tonight. Anybody who wants to share, you're more than welcome to. So this is how things are gonna run tonight. First of all, that's been my official welcome. Welcome, and thank you guys for coming to make your voices heard. I'm gonna give some instructions in a minute of how, you know, of course, kind of some rules for when you standing up and making your comments, because this is a very, we don't want to censor your voices, but at least we want to, there are some rules that we want you to be aware of. Then we're going to have some community, we call them community impact speakers. And these are people who are serving the community, who are, their organization and their work is being affected by what's happening with the cuts that has come out of Washington. And then after we have them come up and share, and then we'll just move into our constituents' comments. And so, Rebecca, if you're there, if you'll put the instructions up, and as I read them, oh, you already, go girl. So, if you would like to share comments, please, you're gonna line up on this side, stage left, I think, for you drama people, right? Line up behind the mic over there, and we'll have some mic people to kind of help keep you guys in order. And you're going to address your comments to Representative Moore, not to others in the room, because we're here to address our comments and let Representative Moore know our concerns and how we feel, however you feel, positive or negative. It's your comments. It's your chance to let Representative Moore know your feelings and concerns. Speak your voice to Representative Moore. Be respectful of others' voices. You know, we're not going to try and tell people what they should or should not say. You will have 1 to 3 minutes, and we do have a timekeeper, Julie here. She'll let you know when you're down to 1 minute and when you have when it's time to stop. And we just want to be respectful and give everybody an opportunity to speak who want to speak. Okay. You don't have to use the full 3 minutes if you don't want to. But we'll ask you to try to limit to 3 minutes. And like I said, Rebecca will let you know when you're getting close to time and when your time is up. Okay? We do have officers Kevin and Officer CJ, who is outside, and we've asked them to be here. You know, just in case we want to get a little rowdy, but looking at this crowd, I don't think that's going to happen. But just in case, better safe than sorry. Especially in light of just some of the things that have happened recently. We want to be respectful. And so, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sydney, who is going to introduce our community speakers, and let's hear from them and what's going on with their organizations.
Hi, I'm Sydney Hutchinson, and I'm going to introduce some of our community speakers tonight. So our first community speaker is Reverend Francis R. Weber. Reverend Weber, founder and executive director and CEO of Washington Outreach Ministries, a 501c3 nonprofit. In addition to her multiple other degrees and certifications, Reverend Weber received her undergraduate in business administration degree in 2001, followed by her Master of Divinity in 2013, both from Gardner-Webb University. In 2007, Reverend Weber became the first female to be ordained as a reverend in 120 years of our local Ebenezer Missionary Baptist Associations in Cleveland County. Congratulations, man. And she soon became the first female pastor in Cleveland County through the Ebenezer Missionary Baptist Associations at Washington Missionary Baptist Church as well. Under the guidance and persistence and efforts of Reverend Weber, Washington Outreach Ministries has been the largest emergency food pantry in Cleveland County since 1995. It is also the largest agency in Cleveland County of Second Harvest Food Bank of the Metrolina Feeding America organization. Washington Outreach Ministry feeds over 15,000 clients per month. 15,000 clients. They have established 12 emergency food pantries throughout Cleveland County and underserved areas. Under the leadership of Reverend Weber, they also established the first two food pantries in 2 local Tier 1 schools. Plus, they provide kids' backpacks to 20 schools. Reverend Weber oversees and assists in providing summer camp and feeding programs in Cleveland County during the absence of the school year for children ages 4 to 18 years old. Additionally, Reverend Weber serves her community by offering education and training and by working to reinstate the GED program. She provides screening services to identify potential participants who have deficits in social determinants, thank you, through a partnership with local doctor and board certified pharmacology therapy specialists. In 2020, Reverend Weber established Diabetes Education, Maintenance, and Control, a highly successful healthcare program provided to the community through a partnership with Atrium Health Hospital. Reverend Weber has received numerous awards over the years in recognition of her excellence and stellar continuing community service, humanitarianism, and spiritual leadership. Everybody welcome Reverend Weber.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
And it's a pleasure to be here tonight. And Miss Sydney almost told you just about everything about me. And again, I am Reverend Frances Weber, the Executive Director of Washington Outreach Ministry. It is a 30-year ministry that we really started from the grassroots. And when we talk about grassroots, it means we started out with nothing. And we have to search for funding to make sure everything happens in Cleveland County. So we've been feeding Cleveland County for about 30 years now. And it's the largest agency in Cleveland County. It has been a real challenge. I'm somewhat of a community activist. I've worked in the community, my husband and I, for the past, most of our lives. Even when we retired 15 years ago, we stuck with this ministry. And it's almost like a full-time job plus. But I have a concern tonight. I have a lot of concerns, but I'm just going to focus on one, which is food insecurity. And when you think about food insecurity in Cleveland County and look at the numbers and the data, it's very alarming. And what concerns me are the budget cuts. And when we look at all the budget cuts that have been handed down from Washington, it's amazing. You think about Cleveland County numbers, poverty level is higher than the state. It is a poverty-stricken county. You think about all of that and the children, 56% of our children are hungry in the summertime. We've got about 60% of our seniors deal with food insecurity. And what concerns me so much is about the cuts is when you cut something that's already bleeding. And my concern is, how do we stop the bleeding? If I'm already bleeding and you're gonna cut me again, it means I'm gonna bleed some more. So what do we do to make a difference? How do we fill that gap? My husband and I, we work in communities. We're actually in the communities, looking at what's happening, what's going on. We feed 15,000 people a month. So we have all type of people coming to us, and there's all type of needs, there's all type of crisis, and we try to fill the gap in those crises. But I want you to know tonight that we're bleeding. And I'm hoping that everybody in this room has concern, the concerns that we have at Washington Outreach Ministry. We are the United States of America. We are one of the wealthiest countries around, and we cannot feed our counties. Something's wrong with that picture. And I'm my husband and I, we're advocates for marginalized communities. We're really advocates for anybody that in crisis that needs assistance. But we're advocating for those that don't have a seat at the table. And another major concern that I have is that we have a lot of people at the table that are making decisions. And I'm convinced, in being out in the communities, that they have no clue what's going on in communities. So when decisions are made, they're not made based on experience, exposure, or impact, or reality. So I'm here to tell you right now, we're in the trenches with the people. We are. We hear the stories. And sometimes we might think it's people that are not employed. No, these are people, husband and wives, that are working, that come to our pantries and they tell a story saying, I've never had to do this before. We have seniors saying, we can't make it, we can't live. And it's driving more people into homelessness. We've got people that are working jobs, just sleeping in their cars at Walmart, on the bridges and everywhere else. We hear the story, we see the needs, and we're in the communities trying to make a difference. So we're speaking loudly tonight, saying, how do we fill the gap? How do we stop the bleeding? And I hope some of you tonight have some ideas that can help us, or will speak very loudly to those that we sent to the table to represent each and every one of us. Everybody is inclusive. How do we make a better Cleveland County? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Reverend Weber, and I agree. I think all of our leaders should have a little more empathy and compassion towards our fellow citizens. Our next community speaker is Terry Bolton. She is a healthcare chaplain, and she is fighting for her special needs son, Christopher. Everybody welcome Terry.
Woo! Thank you. I might try and read this so I stay on task here. So I am here to tell a good news story and a bad news story. One, the good news. My son Christopher, Chip and my son, was born 25 years ago with Down syndrome, premature, spent 33 days in the hospital, and then 3 years later was diagnosed with leukemia. So when he was diagnosed with leukemia, the doctors told us that because of the collaboration of research and cancer research in our country, that leukemia was really a very treatable disease, and that more than 90% of the kids diagnosed with this kind of leukemia would do just fine. And so because our government worked together and worked on cancer research, our son is healthy today. That is some of the good work that can be done, and right now with the wiping out of so much funding for research for healthcare, that has become a significant problem. So the other story I have, which is not a good story, is Christopher went to Webb Street School in Gastonia for 17 years, finished at 22, and we were very fortunate that he was able to go to Life Enrichment Center, which for any of you who don't know it, it is a day center for both elders as well as adults with special needs. He goes there every day, and he doesn't have a language that the rest of us understand, but he's got a smile and a zest for living that really draw people to him and makes everyone in the environment better. They provide structure, they provide a caring environment, they provide a safe space so that he can be there, and so that we, and then also those others who help us with his care, can work and be taxpayers and involved in the community. So we got a letter on August 22nd saying, "Dear families and guardians, they said, on behalf of those we serve, your families and your loved one, Life Enrichment Center needs your help. Recent federal and state legislation and disagreements between state legislators and Medicaid leaders have forced cuts to certain funding sources in North Carolina as soon as October 1st, 2025. Funding for people whose attendance at Life Enrichment Center is paid for by, which is paid for by Medicaid Innovations, is anticipated to be impacted. So, the amount of reimbursement to our Adult Day Center for Medicaid Innovations already is not enough per participant to continue to operate with current costs. A cut in this funding will be devastating. It is likely that Life Enrichment Center and many daycare centers will no longer be able to serve people who are paid for by Medicaid funding sources. So I bring this to you tonight because it is not just our son. It is all the elders. It is all the people who are only able to keep their elders at home because there's a daycare center like Life Enrichment Center. Congressman Moore, I know, knows Life Enrichment Center. He served on its board. And so when I have called Congress, and I've called him several times during the federal funding bill, to say I'm concerned about all the federal funding that was being looked at and how it was going to affect especially the most vulnerable, especially those who would be affected by the cuts in Medicaid. And everyone in his office said, that is just Democrat propaganda. And that is not true. And so, you know, to be clear, the letter that Life Enrichment Center sent was really about a state shortfall in funding. But what the people in the disabilities community are saying is that this is a dry run for what's going to happen next year when the Medicaid funds are really implemented and the cuts begin to affect everybody. And what's going to happen then is going to be devastating. So once I got this letter from LEC, I called back Congressman Moore's staffers and said, you said this was just Democrat propaganda, but this is already beginning to be seen as an impact. And what they told me then is that the only people who will suffer from the cuts in Medicaid are illegal immigrants. And so I asked the person who answered the phone if they really even believed what they were saying. I wonder if they really believe and what they will feel like. And Congressman Moore, I would want to ask you, if you were here, how will you feel when your staffers know that they have had to lie to people, when it is exposed that what they have said to so many constituents is that it is not, what they've said is not have anything in truth. Having gone through all the work that it takes to do Medicaid, to get a Medicaid waiver, and I can tell you the paperwork is enormous. Anyone who has gone through that process, to think that there are somehow that our immigrants have been able to access that kind of funding, that is ludicrous. But it shows a lack of understanding and an assumption that people, you just tell them something. And so I want to appeal to the humanity of our congresspeople to say, can we remember that whoever elected you, that can we remember our common humanity, our common commitment to those who are most vulnerable, and to remember that it is what we do to each other that we will be remembered by, and that our current demonizing of each other is making us a worse country. And can we remember what we are called to be and who we are called to be? Thank you.
I'm going to do a quick microphone adjustment. Thank you, Terry. Okay, our next community impact speaker, Stacy Staggs, lives in Charlotte, North Carolina with her loving husband and adventurous twin girls, who both have complex medical needs and disabilities. One of her daughters, Emma, is a Medicaid success story. Every facet of her life is directly made healthier and safer because of Medicaid, but that all ends if Medicaid is defunded. She is a mom with children in peril, so she is speaking up. She is also an advocate for their healthcare, education, and community inclusion with Little Lobbyists, a family-led organization advocating for children like her own. Welcome, Stacy.
Thank you, Sydney. Thank you to Red Wine and Blue for sponsoring this, and thank you all for coming out tonight. I believe in a participatory democracy, and I believe that the power of the people is more than the people in power. I believe that as we leave this evening with more stories and more engagement and more resolve to keep doing the work, that good things will happen. I also believe that there are a terrible number of things that are going wrong, not only in this state, but in this country. And the reason, again, that I'm speaking up is because I have children in peril. And I know there are millions of children in peril across our country. In North Carolina alone, there are 3 million beneficiaries of Medicaid. When Congress has been going through their funding conversations and their voting, they are not sufficiently aware of all the different Medicaid programs that exist. And I don't know if I could share just a little bit of detail about it. Sarah, my beautiful singer, my sweet daughter, she is a twin. She and her sister will be 12 on Thursday. We are now in middle school, so wish me luck. And they were born premature at 28 weeks. They both spent months in the NICU right down the road from us at Levine Children's Hospital. We had a number of stops and starts. We did have chaplains visit us. We did have the palliative care team. We did have the doctors tell us that specifically Emma was so sick they didn't expect her to survive the night. All of that happened before we even notified our family, our extended family and friends that the girls had arrived very early. They made their debut early because they were so excited to be here with us. Sarah came out of the NICU with, after 98 days. Her developmental issues include delays with speech, global developmental delays. She's also been diagnosed with epilepsy, so we are on continuous seizure watch. And she's what her speech therapist has told me the term is called Gestalt language processing. So she speaks in scripts and song lyrics, and that's part of why she is so comfortable at the microphone. At home, we also have musical instruments that she is teaching herself by ear. So it's a very exciting time. It's a lot of growth and progress and development. And while she herself does not reach Medicaid eligibility, she does need support in her community. In the school, she has an IEP, she has a one-to-one when she's in the classroom. And just because of the support that she has, she's making progress and she's doing great things. So that's a success story. Her twin sister, Emma, has the harder road medically speaking. She was in the NICU for 110 days. We did almost lose her several times, and just, with faith and power, she came through. She's tougher than anyone I've ever met personally. And she came home from the NICU with Medicaid eligibility, with private duty nursing, with durable medical equipment that makes her bedroom look like a hospital room. And all of that with me as the untrained, unpaid caregiver for a child at risk for institutionalized care. That's my title with the state of North Carolina. I was in the workforce. I was actually doing great work with Bank of America and other large companies in the city and also in the country. I had to leave that job because even in the current state, Medicaid has a lot of holes to fill. And that falls on the family, the caregivers, largely the mothers. So as we look forward to not only federal but state cuts, as you said, we're already bleeding. It's going to get worse. Even effective October 1st, you mentioned there are cuts at the state level coming to provider reimbursement rates. That's going to hit rural and urban hospitals. That's going to hit therapists and nursing homes and rehab facilities, like physical rehab facilities, and of course schools. There's a large component of Medicaid dollars that go to public education. And it's always been said that budgets reflect priorities. We are the richest country in the world. We have the ability, the funding, to serve every person and meet every person in this country's needs, maybe even a couple of wants. But because of the wealth hoarding that's happening, that's been encouraged by Republican votes over the years, we're not getting access to the things that we know work. When kids are fed, when kids have access to healthcare, when kids are comfortable and supported in their community, their individual outcome is better, which makes our whole community's outcome better. We don't even have to guess at this because we know that it's been true. Hold on, musical interlude. Sorry, she's, oh, that's sweet baby. She's my roll dog. Sarah and I hang out all the time. And yeah, she's the Medicaid success story, and she's the reason why I'm fighting so hard. I want answers. I want FaceTime. I want Congressman Moore, my gerrymandered congressman, to look us in the face and say why he's making the decisions that he has. And I think especially in knowing that his previous role was as the North Carolina Speaker of the House, right? He is uniquely aware of the landscape that exists in North Carolina. And he knows that our state's registry of unmet needs for people who are deemed Medicaid eligible and can't access services has already crossed 18,000 people. We cannot sustain cuts. In fact, we need more money. So I spent a large part of the summer traveling back and forth to DC with my girls in tow, walking the halls of the Capitol and trying to meet with our legislators, not just Congressman Moore, but also Tom Tillis, Ted Budd, both of our senators, a number of other representatives across the state, including Greg Murphy, who is a doctor, and all along the way, so we never really got any Republican actual congressmen to talk to us. In fact, they locked the doors behind us. But in speaking with their staffers, they were mostly cordial. They're young, they're so young. I don't know that they understand the intricacies of Medicaid either. And they certainly don't imagine themselves ever being in need of it. But we never got any FaceTime with any of our Republican representatives. And as a constituent, as a voter, as a mother, I find that abhorrent. It is literally their job to be the voice of the people who've been elected to serve. I'm not a mega donor. I can't write a check. My living expenses go to living. And because of that, I had no voice with any of the Republicans that we tried to meet with. On the other hand, as I was telling my friend here, the Democrats who are sitting in Congress, both in the House and the Senate, were exhausted and shared tears with us and really seek to understand what our children and our families need to do better, to strive, to participate as fully as they possibly can in their communities. What is that guy's name?
You're a good mother. You are, and now you can talk. You keep what you're saying.
Yes, so I will say her twin is at home because the last town hall that we did, I was actually holding both girls trying to go in different directions. What is that guy's name? NC8. Mark Harris. We actually did catch him in the hallway and met with him and shared our story and talked about Medicaid impact. He patted one of our friends on the head and said, "I'm voting for the budget bill," and walked away. So accessing their humanity is something I've not yet had success in doing, but I will surely continue to try. Because our kids deserve the best. Our families, our communities deserve what they need to be able to be the best that they can. And as a mother, I will continue to do everything I can to make that happen. So I want to thank you all again for coming out tonight. This is not a one and done. These are ongoing conversations. Come hell or high water, I will get in the room with this man and we will have a conversation about the impacts of Medicaid because he deserves to hear and she deserves for him to know. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Stacy, thank you so much for coming and sharing your stories with us. Wow, just wow. And so now, everyone, we're gonna go ahead and transition into, it's your time to get ready to come up and share your thoughts and so forth. And so what I'm gonna have you do, if you're gonna be sharing this lineup over there with Lori, and it's your time to share whatever you want to share. If you want to sit and think about it and come up, a little later, you can. We're just going to open the floor up, and so I'm just going to remind us of the guidelines when you're speaking. So address your comments to Representative Moore, who is with us here tonight, not to others in the room. It's your chance to let Representative Moore know your feelings and your concerns, however they are, positive or negative. Speak your voice to Representative Moore and be respectful of others' voices. We won't try and tell people what they should and should not say. You will have 1 to 3 minutes. Please try to stick to time so everyone who wants to speak will get a chance. You don't have to use the full 3 minutes, but you do have up to 3 minutes. And please try and keep an eye out over here with Julie, who is our timekeeper. And like I said, we do want everybody who wants to speak to have a chance to do so. And so we'll go ahead and have our first person come up.
Hello, Congressman Moore. I will try to keep this at 3 minutes. And it's fantastic that you have your hand on the Bible as you gave your oath. I am an unaffiliated voter out of Cramerton, North Carolina. I am not going to ask, per your constitutional obligation, why you failed to disclose hundreds of thousands of dollars in stock traded during Trump's market manipulation in the spring. I am not going to ask why you have just invested $245,000 in an exotic stock fund that will pay you handsomely when the economy tanks. I am not going to ask you, since you serve on the Artificial Intelligence Subcommittee, whether or not the government should own private companies like Intel, and why right before Donald Trump's announcement of that happening, you bought a lot of Intel stock right before it rocketed up. My question actually pertains to your work on the House Financial Services Committee meeting on April the 2nd. And I am actually happy to remind you, or for anybody here, the entirety of Vice Ranking Member Sean Cass's comment. And my question is this: why did you turn a blind eye to Trump's acceptance of emoluments, which is prohibited in Article 1, Section 9 of the U.S. Constitution, specifically as it relates to Justin's son? Now, for those of you in the room, or if Mr. Moore forgot who Justin's son is, or you don't know a whole lot about cryptocurrency, Mr. Sun runs the Tron blockchain. It is a network favored by drug traffickers and terrorist groups to move money. Mr. Sun is not only affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party. Fortunately, right after Donald Trump took office, the DOJ dropped their investigation of him. But he transferred $75 million to Trump's meme coin business, a business that has no value. You gave an oath to uphold the Constitution. Why are you turning a blind eye to the corruption and ignoring your oath?
Good evening, Speaker Moore, or no longer Representative Moore, forgive me, you've been demoted a little bit. My name is Brett Caldwell, and I am an attorney and activist from Charlotte. And in full disclosure, I should tell you that I'm running against you for Congress. Next fall. But I do have a question for you today, because I am going to ask about these stock trades. I want to know specifically about your $250,000 investment in the Direction Bear Index Fund, where you will profit if the stock market goes down. Do you not understand that there is a general feeling in society today that our leaders have abandoned us, that they're only looking out for themselves? Do you not know what it would be like to use an analogy to be on a boat if you say, I think we might be sinking, and you look up and the captain's loading himself and his family and all his belongings in one of the few lifeboats. Don't you understand how corrosive this is for our society, for someone like you to go out there and say the Trump economy is strong, while quietly hedging your bets? And if you do understand that, why would you not agree, as do so many others and the majority of Americans, to ban the individual trading of stocks by members of Congress? You have too much information and too much power over the economy for that ever to be perceived as fair. And I think that is part and parcel of your duty as a public servant. And if you understand the general feeling of the public, I don't know why you would not agree to ban those individual trading. And that is something I certainly would like to answer to.
Speaker Moore, it's good to see you again. We last met about 2 weeks ago at the Chamber of Commerce luncheon in Kings Mountain here. And I'm going to ask you the same question here tonight that I asked of you there. I guess we should start by thanking you for your contributions to Cleveland County. And thank you for being here tonight, at least in that form. Now, Representative Moore, I'm a 30-year retired public school teacher. I taught in Lincoln County. I taught in Lincoln County. I've taught in Mooresville City Schools, and I'm a grandparent of 3 or 4 children who will soon be students there in Cleveland County schools. So I speak in that capacity here. Now, you spoke at the committee at the luncheon about that big, beautiful bill, and you touted the cuts and how it would bring prosperity. But that big, beautiful bill cuts federal revenue while our schools here struggle. Now, as a 30-year veteran teacher, I know how important federal funds are to schools. State funds go so far, but federal funds are important for Title I programs for low-income students. They're important for special education funds for individuals with disability and education idea. They're important for school meals, Representative Moore. They're important for safe, modern schools. Now, most of our students here in Cleveland County don't go to private schools. They don't get those opportunity scholarships and all this money is being funded to. They depend on federal funds to make things meet. So my question here to you tonight again is, how does this big, beautiful bill put direct federal investment into Cleveland County classrooms instead of just tax breaks at the top and a promise or a hope of trickle down? Representative Moore, we hope to hear from you soon about that. Thank you.
Hello, Tim. Says you're a representative, but you don't represent me. I'll read from your website. Any advertised town hall this week with my name or likeness are not hosted by my office or affiliated with me. These events are organized by outside liberal groups as a politically partisan theater technique. That's a lie, Tim. I don't think there's a single person in this auditorium who is from the outside. We are all supposed to be represented by you. I see your hand up, and when I first walked in, I thought you were waving at me, but I see your hand is on something, and I presume that's the Bible. I read something on Facebook the other day that said, all you folks up there, you Republicans, keep on talking about you want the 10 Commandments in the schools. But it made the observation that nobody wants to have the Sermon on the Mount there. That would be much more likely that was what Jesus said. The 10 Commandments came from the Old Testament for an angry God who did some terrible things to his people. Why don't you have the Sermon on the Mount placed on school walls? That's my question.
More.
I'm assuming everyone got it, because it came to our house and a lot of my friends' houses, so. Very fancy, very pretty, and it says, title is How the One Big Beautiful Bill Helps North Carolina's Working Families. I would like for you to address that with us. I wish you were here so that you could address the bullet points on the front of this mailer, and see how you can really justify it for the people of Cleveland County. Number one, extending income tax cuts and increasing take-home pay. What I see that as really meaning is that you're extending tax cuts for the ultra wealthy and increasing corporate profits. I'd like to hear your explanation for that. The second one, securing the border and investing in our troops. Okay. What does that really mean? Securing the border against people applying for asylum and or coming here to work at jobs, necessary jobs, let me say, at low wages, very hard work, working 12 to 14 hours a day, at jobs that no one else wants, at the rate that they're making. Such as farm work, meat packing plants, roofing, landscaping, and the list goes on. Number three, protecting health care for working Americans. That's a big issue for me as a retired nurse. I dealt with patients who did not have health care, who were struggling to make ends meet and would have to decide between food, rent, and medicines. Okay, that is still a big concern. But at least finally, after years, the North Carolina did extend Medicaid expansion. And we appreciated that. And now, federal government, including the vote, or what is included in this big, beautiful bill, is to gut Medicaid for all those vulnerable Americans who are working maybe 2 and 3 part-time jobs and don't have access to health care. The Affordable Care Act included. And all those vulnerable Americans who are also your constituents, not just the wealthy. Next one, supporting local North Carolina businesses. I would like for you to explain specifically how you plan to support local Cleveland County and Mecklenburg and Rutherford County businesses. What are you doing to really help those businesses? Because I'm not seeing it, and I would like for you to explain that. Now, you are, what it also includes, to say in your flyer that you are investing, federal government, and this big beautiful bill is investing in troops by improving housing, health care, child care, missile defense, etc. Okay, I mean, that all sounds real good, but it's at the expense of everyday Americans, working Americans, vulnerable Americans. And I would like to see how you can balance the two and address what Americans really, the needs of everyday Americans. And I agree that we do need, money for defense. We have to have a safe, secure America from our enemies. But what about the everyday Americans and what they struggle with day to day? How about addressing that? And what about, like, housing costs, the cost of gas and groceries, funding for our public schools so that all of our children can get a quality education, voting rights, women's reproductive rights. Let's address all those issues that really affect us day to day. And I wish you were here so that you can answer our questions and address the needs of our community. But maybe one day we can actually speak to you directly. But until then,
Good evening, Mr. Moore, or Representative Moore. I hope you're feeling well. I don't see why you can make it tonight. It's a beautiful sunny evening, nice crowd, but then this is not the first time you've done this. I'm not gonna ramble on, but I do wanna make one issue important. We do not agree with ICE, and we do not agree with military coming in to our streets. You know, you cannot sit here and say, oh, yeah, I agree with this. You can't agree with it, it can be your hometown. I know you're not ignorant, I know you're a smart man, you just don't know how to work the currency. But I think you do a disservice to your constituents, who are everybody in the county that voted for you. We can take those votes back. Think about it. You lie to our faces, and then you turn around and vote lockstep with the fellow Republicans across the aisle saying, oh, look at them liberals. Once upon a time, there were the same liberal things that we believe in. I remember growing up in the 70s, and I'm still part of your agenda. So, I understand you're a good Christian man. Think hard about it, pray hard about it, and see the light. Thank you.
Yesterday, President Trump discussed, or said that he did not love his opponents, but he hated his opponents. I wanted to know, Representative Moore, what you believe about the way that we should treat those who disagree with us. Do you represent us, or do you only represent the people who voted for you? I'd love the answer to that question.
Congressman Moore, you're looking two-dimensional as ever. I do have a question, but I first need to say, sir, that I am not a liar, I am not a fearmonger, and I am not shallow surface talking points. I am a mother. I am a mom of twin girls who have complex medical needs and disabilities, and we're all doing our very best to get through each day. Sometimes my daughter lives her life in 2-hour increments. It is that close surveillance that has kept her alive for the last 12 years. 2 weeks ago, I had to dial 911. My daughter was in acute respiratory distress. Her oxygen saturation had dipped down into the 70s. I saw the light go out in her eyes. When medical arrived, along with our volunteer firefighters, it took 6 adults to calm her. They actually did give her sedation at home so that they could safely treat her. And we raced across town. Priority 1, lights and sirens, imminent danger of death. When she arrived at the emergency room, we actually had to snake through beds in the hallways, chairs and privacy screens that aren't actually private. But there was an overflow of patients to be seen in both the pediatric and the adult emergency departments. Because of her tier 1 triage, she was seen immediately. She was given round after round of breathing treatments and supplemental oxygen, and even more sedative because she was panicked. She could not breathe on her own for hours as we were trying to calm her down. We ended up being admitted to the hospital for that night, and we had very good care, as we always do at Living Children. But when we were ready to discharge the following day, after IV antibiotics, a chest X-ray that showed focal pneumonia, and coming back to baseline after needing supplemental oxygen, one of the nurses told us there were 16 other kids who were waiting for a bed. And that's before the upcoming Medicaid cuts. That's before the state provider reimbursement rates cause our pools to shrink, our specialist appointments to go go even further out, we're already 6 to 18 months out for specialists. And when those rural hospitals close, people are gonna be coming here to Charlotte. People are going to be coming where the hospitals are, hoping there's a bed for them. And I just need you to know, I don't accept your characterization that I'm a liar and a fearmonger. I am living this life. And I would love it if you could come to our home, if you could see what my daughter lives with, if you could see the help and the benefit that Medicaid provides her and how happy she is in our home. If you're ever interested in fiscal responsibility anymore, that's what I hear was important to Republicans over the decades, it's a third of the cost to keep her home compared to being in a state institution, which by the way doesn't exist anymore. My daughter deserves to be at home just like everyone else. Thank you.
All right, so Cindy Hutchinson, Gaston County. Couple of things. One's more of a statement. You were completely useless on lead funding, and just as a reminder, most of the 14th Congressional District was a disaster zone, so in the honor of the one-year anniversary of Helene, I would just like to thank you for nothing. The main thing I want to ask you is, what are you doing for our farmers? Because they don't have anywhere to sell their soybean crops to, and it seems like these tariffs are literally going to kill them. And that seems like the exact opposite of what I thought we were supposed to be about. So I'd really like to know when you're going to stop kissing Trump's butt on these tariffs and actually help the people you represent, because costs are going up, farmers are about to go under. What are you doing? Are you doing anything? Because to me, it doesn't seem like you're doing much. So I would really love to know what you're going to do with our farmers as the harvest is about to come in. Thank you.
Remember me? I'm supposed to be your secretary. I didn't find this out until recently. I had an experience with you. I was at Homes over, and you and your partner were over in the library, and you were campaigning. I said, well, he's not such a bad guy. But after you disrespected and hurt people who are trying to reject you, you are their representative. You are our representative. That's what you're supposed to be doing. That is your job. But you treat us like we're garbage. I mean, we sent you to Washington to help us, to be there for us, to do a job, to represent us. We are not getting any representation here. So you need to do your job, to be compassionate, especially to mothers like this. Don't disrespect them. Don't disrespect us. Treat us like we're somebody.
So my name is Christy Carroll, and I'm from Davidson, and I'm in one of your gerrymandered districts where you drew out my senator, and I drew this district so that you wouldn't have to listen to us. So that's why he doesn't listen. I am just so sad and heartbroken about what is happening to our country right now. It is disgraceful to see Congress sitting there doing nothing, allowing this administration to defund agencies that were established by Congress, and you'd rather see food and supplies go to waste than providing this to those who need and who are in need. You sit back and laugh and allow this administration to steal, grift, profit from the American people, and at any other time would have just been unheard of. If it was a Democrat stealing from the American people, you would be up in arms, and you just shut your eyes and make up lies to cover for it. The headlines about the grifting, they're just so overwhelming that it's hard to notice everything that is happening. I just want you to do your job.
majority of the North Carolina State Legislature, Republican leaders ran through Bill 382. It changed our state finance laws. For the first time, it allowed unlimited direct corporate contributions to political campaigns. Really? Do we need more special interest money in politics? A few months later, an Illinois-based company wired $230,000 to the North Carolina House Senate Republican Caucus campaign bank account. And the following week, Republican leaders inserted a provision into a major transportation bill that will make that company millions of dollars. Quid pro quo is perfectly legal now. One of the other things I want to ask about is regarding House Bill 958, which is on the docket now, proposed by North Carolina Republicans. What does it do? It permits foreign entities, including foreign governments like Russia, to legally make campaign contributions to our state's election candidates. Why is that okay? Why do we need to allow foreign dollars and foreign interference into our North Carolina elections?
No, you're not last. Okay. I want you to be last though. You know, bring it on home.
Representative Moore, I was hopeful that you would be here in person to hear the voices of those of us who represent in the House of Representatives too. The People's House. I have to admit, I was not too hopeful, as you were a no-show for the first one of these back in April this year. We're not here to attack you. That would mean we are centering you versus ourselves and the people we care about who are being negatively impacted by the so-called Big Beautiful Bill that you supported. We're going to center ourselves, the voters, and our family and our friends. H.R. 1, the Big Beautiful Bill Act, signed into law on July 4th, will cause a lot of harm for millions of Americans while giving a permanent tax cut to the wealthiest of Americans who do not need it. As a 30-year occupational therapist, I am horrified. I'm horrified at the cuts to Medicaid that will put the lives of special needs kids and adults in jeopardy. I'm horrified that fragile, elderly residents in nursing home beds funded by Medicaid will not be able to stay in those facilities due to cuts to Medicaid. As one who at one time proudly carried my own health insurance, this year, due to cuts to Obamacare, I'm horrified to see this coming, and that millions will lose their health insurance this coming December. I'm horrified at the closing of more rural hospitals due to cuts to Medicaid and funding for providers to care for patients in those communities. I'm also horrified at the cuts to student loans, which will make it more difficult for Americans who look like me to become first-generation college-trained professionals. There is so much more in this legislation that concerns me, but I will stop here to give others an opportunity to speak. I will end with this. Shame on you. Shame on you for not caring enough about the least of these as Jesus commands in the Bible. Your blind eye to them and us while giving away our tax dollars to millionaires and billionaires will only increase our tenacity and determination to keep speaking up for them and ourselves, even if you're in the room only as a paper cutout.
Hello, Kim. This is Betsy Wells, your drama teacher from high school. Here in Barnes Auditorium, where we had so many good memories. I remember your senior play, and we did math. I remember also you're going to New York with me with the drama crew that next spring when you were a senior, and you taught me what an ATM machine was. Also, down through the years, I've watched as you've grown from being a member of our student body here at Kings Mountain High School and a student body officer,
to going into politics. And I was sorry that you went to that other side with your registration. And I do pray for you nightly, and I mean this seriously. Because I know you, Tim. I know that deep down inside of you that there are better angels that you can respond to. Take everything that's said here tonight. All the people have talked to you about how these bills and what you're doing in Washington is going to affect them. And when I was in Washington lobbying for Medicare and against cuts in Medicare, thank you for meeting with my group personally in your office. And at that time, we were talking about just sealing the flaws in Medicaid. But in the real bill that came out, and you didn't mention it in your brochure, but Medicare is going to be cut $510 million over the few years. And besides the gigantic cuts in Medicaid, and I know that you have had cancer in your family, and yet in this bill, the cancer research money is gone. I just appeal to you, Tim. I know you're a better man than this. And I know that you're having to walk the tightrope in Washington because you're the newbie on the block. But I know that you can do better for us here in Kings Mountain and your whole legislative and congressional district. You know what people go through. And I just appeal to you, Tim, do a better job. I know that maybe down the road you have some bills in your head that might remedy these problems in Medicaid or Medicare. And I know that you have supported public education. You've helped retirees get a raise several years ago in the General Assembly. But you're now in Washington, and you can really play ball with the big guys. But I want you to play ball and do it in such a way that you bring home health care and goodness for your and help address the problems in Washington. Again, this is Ms. Wells, and I appreciate listening, and you're listening to everything on the tape, and I look forward to meeting with you again in your office in Washington. Thank you.
Anybody else? Do you have time? Great. We have time.
Congressman Moore, I spoke to you at early voting last year during the presidential, and told you that I had no idea how you could stand up and be campaigning for the man who is now in the White House. That his character is such that you can't even use the name of this president and character in the same sentence. And you said, "Are you impugning my character?" And I said, "Yes, I am, unfortunately." And I thought that you were a person of character, good character. But the fact of the matter is that I don't know what's happened to the Republican Party. I'm of Medicare age, I look pretty good for my age though, but hey. And I remember the days when, folks in the Senate would get together and talk, have a drink after they did some work for the people. They were actually doing what we needed them to do. They were compromising, they were getting bills passed, and they were thinking about their constituents. Now, it's just absolutely horrifying and mystifying to watch what goes on in Washington, D.C. And I'm going to give you a quote here, and it comes from someone who's on the other side of the fence. The question is, what are the things you cannot see that are important? So I'm asking you to think about that. What are the things that you cannot see that are important? This person answered, I would say, justice, truth, humility, service, compassion, and love. They're the guiding lights of a life. That was said by the Nobel Peace Prize winner, President Jimmy Carter. Thank you.
Anybody getting that last minute feeling like I want to get mine? Go ahead and get mine in right now. Just share about
Representative Moore. I'm Julian Green. I live here in Cleveland County, your district. The main thing I want to ask you right now is it has a big effect on our country because we have a lawless president who's running around doing things that are clearly against the Constitution, and you are advocating your responsibility as being part of the checks and balances. If we don't have checks and balances, we have a dictator. That's all I have to say.
Hello, Mr. Moore. My name is Raymond Allen. I live in Shelby, North Carolina, and I've been in this area since 2013. And I grew up the daughter of a veteran. My father fought in World War II. He helped liberate the Order of Concentration Camp. He didn't talk much about it growing up, but I just am disgusted at what is going on in our country with people who are just here and it's because they want to have a better life. And when I see Alcatraz and I see all these other places that are being built to put good people away just because they wanted to come to this country, if you don't think that's not fascism, I don't know what you think it is. But I pray for you. I've called your office many times and I've never gotten a reply. I've emailed you many times and I've never gotten a reply. So I don't think you are working for me. But I pray for you, and I pray that you look deep into your heart to see what is right and what is wrong with this administration, because right now you are on the wrong side of history. And
Representative Moore, I was happy to sit down, but I just got a late-breaking question from a dear friend of mine in Shelby, North Carolina, who's a leader of the black community in central Shelby, the middle of Shelby, and she is a close friend of yours too, from what I understand. And my question is, how can we justify gerrymandering when it splits up neighborhoods, it splits up communities, and it splits up people? Because we know eventually that gerrymandered system will make you less responsive to your constituents and let you go where you will. So my question is, without saying, well, the Democrats did it way back when, so we're just getting our due here, how can we end gerrymandering and make our elections fair in the future? Hope to hear from you soon.
Hello, Representative Moore. I'm just going to send this in, but since we're here in person, I'll go ahead and share. I'm extremely concerned that you have given away your congressional power as a check on President Donald Trump. You were elected to represent all North Carolinians, and so far you aren't doing that. The passage of the Big Beautiful Bill will hurt so many North Carolinians, and you have been so quiet about the Epstein files. Tariffs are damaging our farmers, and the cost of living is out of control. The list goes on, but it's not too late to do the right thing by your constituents. Lori Downey, Huntersville, North Carolina.
I just wanted to add one thing. We're not giving up. We're not going anywhere. I mean, maybe count on us doing that, but we are not giving up. My name is Teresa Ashton from Gastonia. Thank you.
Representative
North Carolina. You are my representative in the 14th district. I'm remembering when I was in elementary school and even in higher grades and learning about the three branches of the government. And it was like a three-legged stool. You have the executive branch, you have the legislative branch, and you have the judicial branch. And if one of those branches becomes weak, the stool is going to fall over. And the country is sitting on that stool. And you are one of the ones who it's up to you. And it's up to everyone in Washington to see what is going on with our government. I know somebody quoted Benjamin Franklin one time, and they asked him about the United States of America and the Republic working. And his answer was, if you can keep it. So please keep it. Thank you.
Any more? I'm going to take a point of personal privilege and give one last comment that has come back in my mind. Representative Moore, the things that you all are doing to cut diversity, equity, and inclusion out of our federal system, out of our museums, out of our institutions. The fact that you all are trying to eliminate Black people who built this country, my ancestors built this country. The fact that you all want to just wash us away is offensive. It is offensive, it is hurtful. It is hurtful to Black adults, and it is hurtful to our children. I have no clue how anyone want to be that harsh to other people. What you all are doing to the Hispanic community is also just totally immoral. It is wrong. And you all will one day have to stand and give an account for what you are doing. We're going to hold you accountable at the ballot box. We're going to keep coming. We're going to be back. We're going to be back. And so, we just want you to hear our voices. We have spoken tonight. We're going to send this video to you. You can choose to watch it. We're going to send it to the media, the news as well. We're going to post it on social media. Because we're going to make sure that our voices are not just falling on into the gutter and not being heard. I want to thank everybody who came tonight. Thank you so much. Just give yourselves. You know, it can be scary to come and to speak out on video. It can be scary to stand on the corners and wave signs. It can be scary, but this is civic engagement. This is civic humanitarian engagement. Take what you have done tonight, share it with your children, with your friends, family, those in your circle of influence. The next time we have it, we're going to let's have this room filled. Let people know we want to hear their voices. We want to make sure that their voices are heard. And we're going to make sure their voices are sent out. Cindy, co-moderator, let's wrap it up. So, first of all, I want to thank you to the planning team. Planning team, please stand up. Y'all, this is just a coordination of the constituents.
down and doing what needs to be done, and here we are. And so I just thank you guys so much. Don't leave before we go to group picture, please. And any questions that you need, well, we got to everybody tonight, but we do have some questions on the index cards up there, then we're gonna send those, we're gonna take those to Representative Moore's office along with a copy of the tape. Cindy, come on over to this mic and we'll share this together, okay? Pick it up again.
Sorry, I'm tall and I'm loud. So something I'm gonna encourage is everybody to stay engaged. Don't feel disheartened and feel like you should give up, because there are days where I have that, like I'll be sitting in my office and it's just news alert, and it's just like, man, this is defeating. But then I wake up and I'm like, there are people that don't have the voice that I have, that don't have the voice that we all have. And we need to keep advocating and keep speaking up for every single person in our community, no matter who they are. So, write your comment. Representative Moore, even though we know he does not respond to us, or you get a form letter. Those are also almost equally as annoying as like not responding to me, but please continue to keep emailing, keep writing, keep doing everything that we're doing. Protesting is another good advocacy method. And at the end of the day, guess what? We've got registered voters, we've got to like get people out of the polls, and that includes young people. I'm a big advocate for youth getting out. I'm 33 years old, and the future in this country is not looking bright for us. So if we don't do something about it, then we can't really complain. But I want to thank all of our community speakers, volunteers, thank you to our officers that are up there, I see them. Thank you to everybody that participated. We really appreciate you taking the time to come out here, and I know it's not an easy thing to get up in front of everybody. Yeah, I think that's it. So if you have any questions for us, let us know. But thank you everybody for coming.
If you want to get a follow-up email, you didn't get a chance to put your name, put your email address on the paper. So before you leave, put that on there. We're going to be